Good?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to open this public hearing on the plans and specifications, proposed form of contrast and estimate of cost for construction on the southeast lift station for the city of Granger, Iowa. Anybody here have anything you wish to ask about that? No? Christie, have you gotten any correspondence about it?
I have not.
Council?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close the public hearing on the lift station. We're gonna go ahead and start our other meeting then?
Okay, Bermal,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Chichak,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Triumph.
Yes.
Could we get an approval of the agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second?
Okay, Triumph.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Bermal,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Chichak.
Yes.
Up first.
I might just take a second and kind of walk through how public improvement projects, because you've got 3 resolutions, I just want to kind of maybe give you, for those who haven't been through this, a little bit of an overview of the procedure. So for any public improvement that is a competitive bid, which we had to because of the cost of this, the first thing we have is a public hearing, we just had. Then the next thing you do, this would be resolution 26-2. Iowa law requires that you adopt a resolution approving the plan specification, form of contract, and estimate of cost. It's just a procedural, it doesn't award the contract, it doesn't do anything with the bids, it's just a procedural requirement. And the reason I'm going to bring this up is that we went back a number of years in central Iowa, or we go to places more than 100 miles from Des Moines. They bid it entirely different. They go through the public hearing, they approve the plans, then they go out to bid. So here in central Iowa, we get the bids before we have the public hearing to sort of collapse that process so it's much shorter. So people look at it and say, well, why are we having a hearing on the estimate of cost when we know the real cost? And the reason is that we use this sort of collapsed, expedited process as if we don't know what the bids are. So we're doing this little ruse. So we've got, the first resolution is this ruse resolution to sort of do the formality. Then we take a look at the bids, and then there's 2 steps that we have to do after that. One is if you want to go forward, we award the contract to whoever the low bidder is. And then again, it's contemplated that we would come back at the next meeting and approve the contract and bond. But here in central Iowa, the practice is we take bids a week or so ahead of the council meeting. So if it looks like the project is going to go forward, we can actually send the contract in the form of the bond to the contractor, and we hopefully will get them back so that we can do it all in one meeting. And we do, in fact, have the original contract and bonds, and Ben has looked at it. So what we're able to do is to sort of expedite the process. Doesn't always work that way, but that's why we'll have 3 resolutions, and those are the ones that sort of follow the requirements of the Code of Iowa. And it sounds like we could do it more efficiently, and we clearly could, but we've got to kind of like follow the law. So that's what we're doing. Because we're going to use bonds for this, and bond counsel says if we're going to use taxing exempt bonds, we got to follow the rules. We can't take any shortcuts. Does that kind of help out? So the first thing we have up tonight is Resolution 26-2, which is this procedural resolution of adopting the plans, specification, form of contract, and estimate of costs. So we're glad to answer any questions, but if there aren't any questions, the action would be somebody to move the adoption of the resolution. Again, this doesn't do anything to award the contract. This just sets the stage. If we don't do that, we can't do anything more.
Real good. Make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-02, adopting plans and specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost of Southeast Lift Station project.
Second.
Okay, Triumph,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bermal,
Yes.
Boss,
Yes.
Chichak.
Yes.
So last Wednesday, we took bids on the lift station project. We received 7 bids. The low bidder was from Hildreth Construction out of Cumming, $801,000. I was carrying the same cost estimate formally that I had a year ago, about $750,000. I always like to be a little bit on the low side to drag the bidders. Hopefully they see my estimate and think that's all the money I got. But
Appreciate it.
we included in the overall project financing a 7.5% contingency for bidding uncertainty, because we never know what the market's gonna be like. And then another 7.5% for changes that might occur during construction of the project. So if you look at it, we're that, with the contingency, we're about 820,000. So we're under what we had included in that. A little bit about Hildreth Construction, because if you know much about them, they are primarily known as a commercial building contractor. But a couple of years ago, they hired a guy named Colton Taylor, who used to be in the wastewater business. He's done, so, when I first saw that, and I didn't know at that point that I had hired Colton, because I'd worked with him before on projects. It's like, I'm gonna call up Mark and say, Mark, what are you doing here? Because I've never seen you do this kind of work before. And then I checked, and he told me he had hired Colton. And so, they're not the most experienced contractor, but they're trying to get into things, but they do have a person who's done this kind of work. And so I don't see any reason, based on his experience, why we would say we should reject it and go to the next bidder. They're anxious to get going. Now, understand that on a lift station project, the longest lead time is going to be the control equipment, the electrical stuff. And it'll probably be 3 months. They're projecting sometime in early May before we'll even see the shop drawings. And then they've been told by the supplier that they'll give 30 days for the city to turn that shop drawing around. We'll get it turned around in 2 or 3 days. And then if it gets turned around by June 1 or early June, supposedly the equipment will show up at the end of September. So, but I can tell you based on past experience, that's about as likely as it's going to be 95 and sunny tomorrow. Everything is delayed. We're kind of hoping that the equipment would show up. My guess is it'll be November before the last critical equipment shows up, just because that's been what we've seen. It's been 10 months for that stuff to show up. And this is not complicated stuff, but our goal is to get it done by the end of the year. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, we're kind of pushing it to get the things done by the end of the year. So I think, we should be able to do that. I would guess that Hildreth probably will not start the physical construction of the structures of the lift station until sometime this summer, which isn't the end of the world, because that's actually a good time for doing it. Get past the winter, get past the wet spring, get into summer conditions where it's generally preferable. I've got a lift station going in Pella right now that's on a fast track, and they're out there in the middle of the winter trying to do it, and it's not very efficient. So I think they understand what's going on. They've already put a schedule together, which they were faster at that than we typically. I don't usually see the schedule the day after the bid. So they seem to be really serious about it. So that's kind of where we are. If you want to move forward, then we'll do the other two resolutions. Just to again highlight, this is about 20% of the overall improvements that we're talking about for Beaver Creek Estate. So we don't know what the costs for those are going to be. So I know there's been some discussion about, maybe, for example, paving the area around the lift station. That's not critical. That's not going to happen until late this fall. So that's the kind of thing that we can say, okay, let's take a look at where we stand after we did some of the other projects. And if we want to go retro some of those things, we can do that. So there's some options available. Some of them are going to be more challenging, but things like maybe $20,000 to pave it. If we got the money after we did some of the other things, we're not foreclosing that at this point in time. But we're right now just doing the base project. I would guess the next project that will come along, probably in about a couple of months, we'll bring the water main to you. The water main starts over at Twin Eagles, goes down the old railroad right away, and crosses over. As soon as we get this issue of getting this 102nd and some of the other property, the Myers and Book property, in the urban renewal area or in the city, whichever comes first, we'll bid the force main and the trunk sewer, and then the next thing we'll have to come along is decide exactly what we want to do with the road project. We anticipate hearing some more information back from the DOT in the next week or two that would give us an idea of whether what we proposed is, what they're gonna bite on and not bite on. I think at this point, it's probably most likely that the 102nd is gonna stay where it is. I think this idea of moving it south isn't gonna happen. There's no momentum for a bridge over it at this point, so we do want to let the dust settle on that just a little bit, and we've got a little bit of time on that. We're also, in addition, Kirk and I have talked about a strategy that would try to get 102nd in the city, so we don't have to deal with Polk County. We still have to deal with Dallas County, but Dallas County is far more cooperative. They've already put it in our let us put it in the urban renewal area, so we can use the TIF funding. So we'll probably have a little bit of a hiatus here for a month or two before we come back and we'll bid the water main project. So if the council is so inclined to move forward, the next action would be to award contract to Hildreth Construction in the amount of $801,000, and that's resolution 26-3.
Out of curiosity, who was the second lowest bid, and what was it for?
It was 824.
828 by Vanderpool.
Vanderpool. And Vanderpool doesn't have really much more experience in lift stations. They do a lot of underground piping work, but I've never seen them build an actual lift station.
And up to 1.2 for the highest bid.
Well, 1.2 doesn't even, they're often like, not there's no contractors in central Iowa right now that specialize in lift stations. So you get this everything all over the lot because they're all looking at it, how do I fit it? So some of those contractors, I don't even think why they bid it is beyond me. I can't make them not bid. And if somebody wants to bid a 1.2 and think that we're silly enough to take it, if they were the only bidder, So, there's some contractors that think that they have to bid every project that hits the street,
Can't catch the fish if you're not in the water, right?
It's like, spend your money chasing wild.
Hildreth was a good construction company.
Yeah, if you want to play Don Quixote and chase windmills, I guess you can do it.
So will they do the work or will they sub some of it out?
They'll do the structure work. Typically on the lift station project, the general contractor they'll do all the excavation, they'll put the structures in, they'll do the piping work, and they'll have an electrical subcontractor. There's nobody around here that does everything. So I would anticipate they'll have an electrical subcontractor, they may have a couple other little subcontractors, but they'll end up doing the majority of the work themselves. Now, equipment purchase is a big part of this, so, out of that $800,000, there's probably $300,000 just buying stuff, and then the rest of it's actually putting it in.
And with those bids, I assume, did we see any difference in the work that was gonna be done, or is it all same work,
All the
same?
spec.
All same, it's all.
So
spec.
just different cost for their labor,
It's how they
essentially?
look at their
Okay.
cost and structure, yeah.
Perfect.
So the plans and specs are put out exactly the same for everybody, and so the scope of work is defined. And it's just how they look at it. Some of them, if you look at, for example, some of the smaller contractors have a lower cost structure. They have a lower overhead. Hildreth, if you've ever been there, it's like they got an office that's about maybe a quarter the size of this room stuffed on their shop. And there's generally nobody there. They don't have a lot of staff. If you look at some of the others, I can go to their office and they got a nice office and a suite and all kinds of people in there. Somebody's got to pay for it. The other thing is, are they looking for work? Are they desperate for work? Or in the case of something like Hildreth, they're trying to break into a new market, so they might say, okay, I'm going to not take as much of a projected profit margin so I can get some experience and I can build my resume and work in the future. So, there's a lot of factors that go into why somebody costs something that way.
Bob, do you want to hit on real quick too, because it's a common question of do they have to take the lowest bidder and how that works?
In Iowa, you have to take the lowest, what's called responsible and responsive bidder. Responsive is the second word, but we'll deal with it. That means was all the paperwork right? Responsible means, do you have a reason to throw them out? It used to be the cities had a little bit more discretion, but today you really have to have a valid, documentable reason why you would not take the low bid. And it doesn't mean that you heard a rumor somewhere over here. It generally now means that you have or know of an exact problem that would say they don't have the equipment, they don't have the experience, they've screwed up other projects. So it's very difficult. There is some case law in Iowa where cities have said, well, we just don't like them because they've got a bad reputation, we just think they might do a bad job. Those were, Des Moines Water Works is one of them, and they ended up paying twice for the project. They paid the contractor to build it, and they paid the contractor that they threw the bid out on. So it was a very pricey project. So they thought they were saving, they thought they'd spend $5,000, $10,000 to go to the second low bidder, and they spent $700,000, $800,000 going to the second low bidder. So I'm reticent unless there's a very good reason to throw out the low bid. Now, if Hildreth screws it up and comes back and bids something else, then we've got a basis for throwing out actual experience. At this point, no reason to believe that. Their staff that they're going to work on the project has worked on projects that I've been involved in, and we didn't have issues with it, so don't have any documentable reason.
So then do all the companies like guarantee or warranty their work the same?
Yeah, they all have to provide there's a bond. And the bond has really three components to it. One is performance, that they have to complete the project. And if they don't, the bonding company will come in and complete it. The second one is they have to pay their bills. And if they don't pay their bills, we can go back after the bonding company and say, you're responsible to pay the bill. So for example, if this contractor walks away from the project or goes bankrupt, we'll go back to the surety and say, you need to complete the project. And then also then, there's the third part of the bond, so that those are payment and performance. And those are required under Iowa law for any public improvement project of this size. The third component of it is called a maintenance bond, which means for 4 years after the completion of the project, they're responsible for any defects in materials and workmanship. So if something breaks or something's screwed up, they have to come back and fix it. And if they don't come back and fix it, we can go back after the bonding company for that 4-year period. And so anything that we discover, let's say we finish the project and we accept it, say, January, about a year from now, January of 2026, 4 years from that date, then we can go back after them for anything that's breaks, unless it's an expendable item or we screw it up ourselves. This is not like the old Sears Craftsman screwdriver where you could intentionally break it and take it back to Sears and get a new one. So it has to be something that went wrong that you weren't the cause of. But there's a 4-year maintenance bond, and I would tell you on lift stations, you're going to know well within 4 years if something is wrong with it. If you pump the water and come out the other end, you know right away. So we try to, and the maintenance bond is not a requirement. You can go without that. The maintenance bond probably adds about 1% to the project cost, somewhere there. But that's a pretty, most cities find that to be a reasonable warranty, essentially like a semi-warranty. It's not the same as a warranty. But, if you're spending $8,000 or $9,000 on an $800,000 project and you get 4 years of protection, that's, in most places, that's considered acceptable. You get farther away from, and again, I referenced Central Iowa versus other parts of the state. Central Iowa pretty much is settled on a 4-year maintenance bond. If you get farther away out into the eastern or western Iowa, that is generally only 2 years, but in some cases 1 year. So here in Central Iowa, most cities, and they have for quite a long period of time, kind of landed on a 4-year maintenance bond for most projects. Now you get into certain things like, you get into a very complex wastewater plant or water plant, typically there might be a mix of a 4-year, 2-year, because some of the things will wear out in 4 years, and they, So, and if you look at like the city of Des Moines and some of those, they'll say there's a 4-year on everything except for like the grass and the sod. That's 1 year, you know. But we don't do that. Does that help?
Yep.
Thank you.
More questions on this?
Good.
I didn't mean to go long, but I just thought new members it might be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, appreciate the
A little bit
information.
of a background and a primer of how public improvements work in Iowa.
It's even good for old members, Bob.
Experience.
Yeah.
You ready?
I don't have a canned speech, but I've done it for a while.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-03, making award of contract for the Southeast Lift Station project.
Second.
Okay, Shriak,
Yes.
I'm sorry, who was second? Chichak,
Yes.
Bermal,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-04, approving the contract and bond for the Southeast Lift Station project, subject to city attorney
We
review.
can take that off because he's already reviewed it.
Yep, that it came
Scratch
in today after.
city
the
attorney
agenda stuff.
review. 2, Hildreth Construction for $801,000.
Second.
Okay, Shriak,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Bermal,
Yes.
Chichak,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
If there's nothing else, I will let you go on with your business.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The annual TIF report, I'd like to defer this. What date can we defer this?
What's our
to?
next scheduled?
February, our regular meeting?
Regular meeting's like February 11th.
Yeah.
Do you have one before that, or? Okay. Well, if just defer it to the next meeting. If we happen to get it done, we can maybe do a quicker one before that.
Okay, so I need a motion to defer this resolution until February 11th.
Or the next council.
For the
meeting.
next council.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Bermal,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Chichak,
Yes.
Shriak.
Yes.
Let's see. Action to approve submission of the Dallas County Foundation grant application, which is, that'd be 25% matching of us
Yep,
to whatever it is.
yep.
Is there more you want to, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're gonna go for a combination tool, which is a smaller extrication tool that's battery powered. And then 2 sets of extrication gear. So the total price for the grant would be $20,595. We would have to pay $5,148.75.
What is that tool?
So right now, our extrication equipment is hydraulic, so
Like the Jaws of Life kind of thing?
yep, so, we've got to hook it up with a generator and start it. And then we have these long cords that are connected to it. Well, this combination tool is just a smaller piece of equipment that we can grab and, start working on stuff as we're setting that up. So we had a car wreck.
Like the other day, yeah.
Yeah, last week, that was pretty long extrication and prolonged, and if we would have had a tool like this, it would have been a quick extrication.
Any other questions? No? Get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve submission of the Dallas County Foundation grant application, 25% matching for extrication tool.
Second.
Okay, Shriak,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Bermal,
Yes.
Voss,
Yes.
Chichak.
Yes.
And I've got the letter for the mayor and Kirk to sign too.
Before we move into the budget workshop, can we take a 5-minute recess? Yeah, is that okay? Yeah.
Can stop it.